Thank you. Perfect. All right, let's get started. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, hello.
Morning.
It's great to see all of you. Hello, Nicholas. We have Dawn and friends. Everybody's coming in. Great job. Great job. It's great to see you. I'm Dr. Prevost. It's great to see Dawn. I remember you from the other class. Absolutely. Yes. Come on in, everybody. We're going to start in about 30 seconds. It is great to see all of you. Today is all about human resources. It's the first section of two that we are doing, and it's going to be great. It's great to see you all back from a number of you, if not all of you, back from the other class, so we can continue to learn together, ask questions, get some answers. It's awesome. It's pretty neat. All right. As a reminder, so it is the top of the hour, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Dr. Prevost. I'm a program coordinator at the Small Business Development Center out of Blue Mountain Community College. And we have Eric on the line to answer questions in the background. If you have any questions, make sure, and Christy's here too, make sure that you keep your microphones muted during our session. And for any questions, please make sure that you put them in the chat. That's important. It's important to keep those microphones muted so that there isn't any background noise or anything like that. So that's great. All right, well, let's get started, everybody. I'm excited. Yay, let's do this. Let's do this. All right. Here we go. All right. So today, and this is Human Resources Section 1. Human Resources Part 1. I'm just making sure that I can see everybody here on the right-hand side. All right. And so today, again, before we begin, this is who we are. We are SBDC at Blue Mountain Community College. Give us a call. I always say this, give us a call, 541-278-5833 at any level of the business development, from business ideation all the way up to growth, and so on. Give us a call. We have a number of advisors in the various counties, as you can see, and we are there for you. SBDC at bluecc.edu, SBDC at bluecc.edu, or 541-278-5833. All right. Okay. And I'll be admitting more people as they come in. It's great. It's going to be great. Today's plan. Let's talk about today's plan. We have, like I said, this is a two-parter. So this week and next week, we're going to take a look at human resources function and its purpose. We're going to talk about attracting and hiring and retaining the best employees. And we're going to talk about federal government considerations. Oh, we have somebody else here. We're talking about federal government considerations for small businesses and so on. Absolutely. But we also have next week where we're going to review what we covered today. Absolutely. Again, make sure to keep your microphones on mute so that I don't have some feedback here. That'll help out a lot. Everybody, make sure that you can click on that mute button. I'm hearing somebody in the background with a microphone on. It's okay.
Hi, Thomas. Thomas Nicholson, please mute your microphone.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Christy. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. You just did that. That's perfect. Thank you. Next week, we're going to talk about compensation, employee benefits, and consistent business practices, but also we're going to review what we've covered today. So that's great. That's great. Again, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll read over some of the answers. We have a number of advisors here, or two advisors, one director and one advisor, who will be looking at your questions, maybe helping me out with answering the questions. Absolutely. So let's tackle the very beginning question, right? What is the human resource function? All right. They're responsible for hiring, the hiring process, absolutely, but also has a role in employee development, very important. Strategic role intended to think about the future needs as well as current issues. They are strategically active and this is important, they're strategically active in looking at future needs of the company, of course, absolutely, but also current issues. All right. They'll administer employee benefits. They could be a sounding board for managers. That's important too, a sounding board for managers. And they play a role in mitigating risk, which is always an important thing at every level of business, to look at risk. And they play an active role, people in human resources. Now, when I say people, it might be yourself. You might be the only one in your small business, and you have to put on that human resources hat. And so that is the key. That is the function for human resources. All right. Okay. They also have policies and procedures in place. And I'm interested in you, in your organization. What are, and please in the chat, we're going to start with you. That's all right. This is interactive. It's not just me talking. It's all right. You can give me some feedback. It's all good. What are some examples of some policies and procedures that you currently have in place? You don't have to tell me the whole thing, maybe just a list with some commas in them. Or if you don't have any, if you're a sole proprietor, you're just by yourself, just let me know that you're by yourself. All right. Okay. Go ahead in the chat and let me know. This is where you participate. You're my students. That's how it goes. All right. All right. And a lot of you are by yourselves. Absolutely. That makes sense. Sole proprietorship, currently sole proprietor by yourself. All right. Safety procedures are being created. Safety policies, says Don. Thank you. Absolutely. All right. And so it's an important step. It's an important step, especially when you start considering hiring your first employees. All right. We'll be developing one. Thank you very much. That's great. That's awesome. All right. Great. Well, thank you. Thank you. You all helped. We're an interactive class here. This is how it goes. All right. So let's tackle again the human resource function. We talked about it. Really, the summary is putting the workforce together and keeping it together within the regulations that the state, federal government might have, other agencies might have, and making sure that you have the staff that you need. We're putting that workforce together in human resources, okay? And we're keeping it together. We're making sure that we have retention. We'll talk about all that today and the next week. We're making sure that we have retention, keeping the best employees and whatnot. Absolutely. All right. Now, hiring is important, but there are consequences that exist when we make a poor hiring decision. All right. One big one is that we have a loss of productivity. That's a big one. All right. Loss of productivity. We might have hired, if we hire the wrong person, maybe the right person at the wrong time or something like that, we might have a loss of productivity. Also, the time to hire and train another person. In my industry, private education, there have been situations where individuals were hired and they were not the right fit. And so there was definitely a loss of productivity, a loss of time in having to rehire mid-school year someone else because that person quit. And so that's something to consider as well. But I'm going to call them tangible consequences of a bad hiring decision include a drag on morale, right? Suddenly, the new hire becomes friendly with other people, and then it wasn't a good fit. They're out of the organization, and it might hurt morale with the other staff members. So that's something to consider as well. It's a bit of a bummer when they leave. All right. You can have also loss of sales. Okay, they might have developed relationships with some clients, and the clients might wonder, where did that person go? Because again, these are the consequences of a bad hiring decision. Also, and this is more of an extreme situation, there might be some legal issues with having hired without having considered all the angles here, and bad hiring decisions can lead to legal issues. There might be situations where you might have theft of inventory or something like, again, this is a bit more extreme, but theft of inventory or something like that, intellectual property. You have to consider all these aspects as well. So again, legal issues too. So that's important to consider as well. All right, so far so good. Again, make sure to remember, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And again, we might not be covering something today. We might be covering it next time. So again, this is part 1, part 2. So just to remind you. All right. One way that you can ensure, you can never 100% ensure, but you can make sure that you hire the right person from a proper HR perspective is to use something called behavioral interviewing when you're interested in hiring someone else. All right. And the name of the game is that past performance is the best indicator of future performance. Now, is it perfect? No, it is not. It is not perfect. But it is better than simply going online and printing out a series of interview questions. I've had that again in my industry where we were handed sheets with questions. That's not necessarily the best way to go about it. Behavioral interviewing is a different way. It's a different mindset, and let's talk about it. But again, the philosophy is past performance is the best indicator of future performance. All right. The idea with behavioral interviewing and its goals is that it eliminates bias. We are also eliminating randomness and inconsistency. We're not just asking questions to check off a box or something like that. Okay. It establishes consistency, objectivity, reliability, and fairness. And you learn about a real situation and how a candidate responded. Right? So those are the goals of behavioral interviewing. All right. So that's great. Just a quick reminder again to make sure that your microphones are on mute. I'm still hearing some background. I think it's coming from Thomas. I'm sorry, Thomas. I don't want to single you out, but it's make sure to click on that mute button again. That would help. Thank you very much. I know sometimes it's a little finicky, and I get that. I get that from the host's perspective. So there you go. So steps to behavioral interviewing. So number 1, identify the competencies, the abilities that you are looking for. Number 2, and we'll look at some examples on the next slide, develop behavioral-based questions. Behavioral-based questions. Of course, number 3, you're going to review the resumes and take a look at what's happened. And with these questions, number 4, and with the number 3, reviewing the resumes, you're going to conduct that interview. And then the idea is we are evaluating candidates based on their behavioral responses and evaluating them objectively, or as objectively as we can. We're looking to eliminate as much bias as we can, and that's key. All right. No one can eliminate bias completely. No one can. That's just the way that it is when you're hiring and you're interviewing that way. But eliminating bias is a goal of that the process. Okay, and so that's key. So let's take a look at some examples, some questions that you can ask. We're going to take a look at some questions. Oh, I have another slide. I apologize. Effectively written competencies will define expectations. Okay, define expectations of the job. Describe observable knowledge, skills, and abilities. Again, we're as objective as we can. All right, I'm looking for the employee to be able to have this knowledge, these abilities, these skills. All right, and explain, and this is key, explain what appropriate job performance is. When you are able to do that, you're taking a lot of the guesswork out. You are looking at the competencies, explaining what you're looking for clearly, so that you and the interviewee are on the right page, on the same page, so that there's no miscommunication, or anything like that. Behavioral-based interview. All right. So let's take a look at some examples of some questions. All right. Number one, what makes an ideal coworker in your eyes? How do you prioritize projects under pressure? I've had this question asked to me in a behavioral interview situation. How do you prioritize projects under pressure? Again, going back to the industry that I know, private education, right? We have a lot on our plates as teachers. And the question is, you have 3 projects that you need to do. How do you prioritize them under pressure? There's a lot of pressure in the classroom. How would you handle your schedule when it's interrupted? Here's another question, okay? Have you ever bent company policy to satisfy a client? That's an interesting thing to take a look at as well. All right. How have you handled setbacks at work? You'll get some examples from the interviewee. You'll get some examples, and those examples will illustrate that past performance. All right, that past performance. Number 6, tell us about the time when you demonstrated leadership without being in an official role of a leader. All right. Again, there will be examples. There will be a lot of examples, okay? And yeah. Number 7, describe a time when you did not agree with a coworker about something important to you and how you handled that situation, okay? Number 8, share a summary of the results of your last performance review and how the conversation with your manager went while going over it. Right, absolutely. Talk about, number 9, talk about a time when something did not go the way you wanted and how you dealt with the situation, a little similar to the other question. But there you go. There you go. So those are all examples of behavioral-based questions. We're trying to eliminate the bias here as best we can. We're letting the interviewee talk about past performance, and we are determining, or not guessing, but we are establishing an expectation of future performance based on that past performance. All right? Good, very good. All right, let's move on. Absolutely. Now, next topic. How can you become, from an HR perspective, something called an employer of choice? An employer of choice. Labor comes in waves. Every time we have a recession, something occurs in the labor market where there is a shift. Anytime we have a boom, that shift and the relationship between the employee and employers can change. That's an important thing to understand. In certain situations, in a lot of situations, you want to be an employer of choice. What does that mean? How can you become one? Let's take a look. An employer of choice is a place where people want and seek to work. You want to hire and attract the best candidates, And again, the employer and employees, prospective employees, are in a market on their own. They get to choose who to apply with and so on. And so you want to attract the best candidates. And that's important. An employer who has earned a reputation of being employee friendly, all right? That means, and again, we'll talk about that when, especially next week when we talk about benefits and things of that nature, offering benefits and so on. But again, employee friendly. Some employees are also looking for situations where you can be family friendly. An organization that has upward and horizontal career mobility, all right? Very important. They're looking for a situation where they're not stagnating and they have the ability to move up. Sorry about that. I have a little bit of a sore throat, so if I'm a little raspy, I apologize. Next, number 4, a management team that highly values training and development and employee engagement and morale. Again, nobody wants to go to work in a place where it's going to be a bummer to do their job. They want to make sure that there's going to be engagement and good morale, okay? And that's important. All right. Employers of choice. How do you attract top talent? Well, you want to have a recognizable employer brand in your community. All right. Be able to, people say, hey, I'm going to go work for Don. For example, I see Don, so you're going to be my example. I'm going to go work for Don. Wow, you're going to work for Don? Lucky, right? That's the idea. That's the recognizable employer brand. Use a variety of methods to publicize open positions using social media, maybe hosting job fair, going to a job fair and say, I have an open position. All right. Okay. A chance to get up close. Have an employee referral program. All right. Be looking when there are no openings by watching for characteristics, attitudes, maybe introduce yourself. And of course, know the vision. All right. Know the vision and know the mission and communicate the vision. That's key. That's key. All right. That's how you attract top talent. All right. Let's take a look at a couple of more points about attracting top talent. All right. All right. You want to consider a new hire's experience and attitude about the organization. And it all began with that first interaction. All right. That first interaction. You want to shake their hands. You want to make sure that you engage with them from a human to human level. All right. That's not all. Onboarding or new employee orientation is a time to position for success and communication. Communicating everything when the employee is brand new, as much as you can. Now, you're not going to be able to communicate everything. I have to stipulate that. More will come in throughout their relationship with you and your organization. But you want to communicate what they need to know to be successful. And that's key. Also, don't hesitate. Don't forget to have updated job descriptions and core competencies. Updated job descriptions. I once worked in a school that did not have updated job description, and the employer called me in and said, "You're not doing what you need to do." And I brought in the job description, and we both realized that the job description was not updated. And so that was an example of a non-clear communication. And that was key. That was key. You need to have that updated job description and core competencies. All right. Okay. Okay. You also might want to consider having more than yourself in the interview process so that you can discuss with that other person how you felt the interview actually went. There are sometimes hiring teams where it's not just you, perhaps as the sole proprietor, but you might have another, or let me rephrase it differently. Perhaps not as just the owner, but you might have another employee there as part of the hiring team. Remember, the new hire will be part of the team. And so you need to figure out how that new hire will jive with the culture of your company as well. And so that's important. Okay, I've been in hiring situations where there have been 8 people in the organization, each asking one behavioral-based interview question, and seeing, the different personalities and how we meshed. It's interesting. So again, employer of choice. You want to be that employer of choice. All right. Now comes one of our first articles that I'm going to share with you. All right. So I'm going to stop screen share, and I'm going to go ahead and share. Oh, this is going to be fun. And I'm going to share it in the chat. So consider this the teacher's handout to you all. It's going to be great. Give me 1 second as I load this up. All right. You're going to see my screen, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about and share with you. Just a second. I'm going to copy the link. Let me share it in the chat. All right. Save it, please. Make sure to save it. Don't discard it. Don't be like my classroom students they're like, oh, I don't need this. No, this is a resource. This is important. This is important. Here we go. It's in the chat, everybody. So go ahead and consider clicking on it. All right. And so this is for your reference, since we're talking about behavioral interviewing, hiring. all that sort of thing. It's human resources after all. Let's talk about our very first article here. And it is, oops, an article that shows you this is updated this summer. It has the most updated information, step by step, hiring your first employee in Oregon. Let's walk through this so that we can really understand the different steps. I'd rather do it this way than just have a simple slide. I might kept my slideshow shorter this time, and so that it's not as repetitive and so on. But here we go. So here are some employer information, so minimum wage information and whatnot. It's all here. All right. And here are the 8 steps to consider and to do when hiring your first employee. All right. Step 1, register. And I'm not going to go through this detail by detail, but register as an employer. All right. Again, get that federal employer identification number. Okay. All the information is here. You can click on the links and it'll give you all the IRS forms, federal forms to fill out and whatnot. So if you do not have that, that'll be your first step. Very good. Very good. Also, make sure that you obtain a business identification number from the Department of Revenue and employer registration with our good friends at the Oregon Education and Employment Department. All right. Next, step 2, employee eligibility verification, right? Very important from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. This is the I-9, all right? I-9, employee eligibility verification form. Click on the link and you will get that link straight from the IRS. You can print it out by clicking here. It'll open up a new tab. Feel free to print it out. Absolutely. And so this is, again, just to make sure that your employees are legally allowed to work in the United States and in Oregon. So yeah, absolutely. It needs to be done. You must complete section 1 by the first day of work. And you have up until section 2, up until the 3rd day of work to complete section 2. You have all that information right there. Let's go to step 3, employee withholding allowance certificate. All right. So each employee will provide the employer with a signed withholding allowance certificate or a W-4. That's for employees. Okay. All right. W-4 information is all right here. Absolutely. Okay. Just click on it, read it, print it out. It's all there for you. Really easy. There's just a number of steps, just step by step. So, all right. Very good. Very good. All right, let's move on. Next, submit the new hire reporting form. This goes within 20 days of the employee's hire date to the Oregon Department of Justice. All right, this is important. This is an Oregon thing, so make sure that you have that. You have the address to mail it to or the fax number right over here. It's all here for you. All right, again, I'm not going to go too deep into this. Again, it's our introduction. All right, then set up payroll taxes. Step 5. Yes, very good, very good. Federal income tax withholdings, state income tax withholdings, again, for your employees. Very important. If you have an HR person, or maybe it's just you with a sole proprietor HR hat on, it's all there, okay? Oregon W-4, a form ORW-4, all right, for the state, all right? Okay. Information about Social Security, Medicare, unemployment insurance, and whatnot. It's all here. Okay. All right. Next, step 6, obtain Oregon's compensation. Obtain workers' compensation insurance. Okay. So make sure that you have that as well, that insurance. Okay. So all businesses with employees, even a single part-time employee, be careful. Don't just think, oh, I just have a part-time, I don't need to do that step. No, no, no. All right. They're required to carry workers' compensation insurance to cover medical costs if an employee is injured on the job. That's fairly straightforward across a lot of the states, numerous states. And so there you go. Step 7. Step 7. Where are we? There we go. Display labor law posters and required notices. Display labor law posters. I'm going to open this actually and click on it. It'll bring you to the BOLI, to the Bureau of Labor and Industries. And you have, and this is fun, you have right here all the posters that are required right over here. Okay, basic requirements for all employers. All right, this is usually in the staff room I've seen, but it needs to be posted. All right, so let's do this one, for example. Click on that link, Family Medical Leave Act. You can click on that, and you can download your poster right here for printing. All right, you don't need to do anything fancy. Just click on that, and it'll give you that poster just right over here. Give it a second as it loads right there. You've seen these if you've worked for other people and other companies. You've seen these in displayed, and so this is important. This will lead us to the step 7. That's step 7. Okay, so that's important. Also, very good. Stay up to date. Very, very important. We're going to talk about the stay up to date in a slide that's coming up, but it's important to understand between the difference between employees and independent contractors. Again, that's coming up in just a little bit with a couple of slides. So I'm not going to go to. I have another person coming in here. That's great. Welcome, Jenny. Welcome. Let's see. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about Form SS8. And that's going to be great. Okay, very good. Let's get back to it with our slide presentation. That was fun. That was our first article. Yes, a little handout, a little something to read. I would recommend that you print this article out, keep it as a hard copy. You really have the steps and whatnot. So there you go. All right, let's get back to it. All right. Here we are. That was our article. Okay. All right. Since we're talking about hiring, how do we retain the top talent? How do you do that? How do you do that? You have hired a wonderful person. That person is a great fit. But remember, you got to make sure that you're able to retain them. How do we do that? Well, one way is to invest in training and professional development. Employees are not looking to just be working and then to not have any professional development opportunities. They're looking to rise up. They're looking to learn more. They're looking to augment their understanding of the field, providing them with training, yes, of course, but also professional development. Follow up and follow through with employees is appreciated, right? Why do employees leave their employers? Usually because of lack of communication and a poor relationship with the boss, and so with the leader. And so that is something to understand and consider. Number 3, be competitive with your salary and benefits. That's right. Okay, be competitive. Understand that you're going to need to provide a certain salary and benefit, okay, so that they come to you and they stay with you. All right. Again, having room for advancement and lateral growth. Consider young people coming in. They want to grow in your company. They want to know that there are advancement opportunities for you. I talked about communication between employees and management. That is incredibly important. Don't undervalue that. All right. Don't hesitate to over communicate. Right. I've had, again, in my industry, I've had private school leaders. Again, my industry is private education. I've had private school leaders miscommunicate. Oh, I sent it in an email. Why didn't you read it? We get busy, right? One way of communicating might not be enough. Follow through and follow up. Okay, very important. And lastly, trust. Trust. That is the foundation for a healthy organization. Trust. If there's no trust, then the whole thing comes collapsing down. People start leaving. All right. Trust is key. All right. Trust is key to retaining that top talent. All right. As promised, Let's talk about contractor and employee. Contractor and employee. Okay. All right. So what is a contractor? What is an employee? Well, a contractor is a worker who is responsible for delivering a certain result. They're a worker, okay, a certain result, and they will generally decide how to achieve that result, okay? You're gonna go ahead and do the 1099. They get a 1099 form as well, okay? And so there you go. The W-2 form that they get at the end, that's for your employees. They're workers who do what you tell them to do, when you tell them, okay, they work for you, directly under you, okay, and how you tell them to do it, all right? I've been a contractor in my consulting work, and I've been an employee. I can tell you the experience is very different. The positives are very different, and the negatives are very different. Remember, and again, we're going to go ahead and talk about this a little bit more in the next coming slide. For the employee, the company withholds the income tax, Social Security, Medicare from wages paid. For the contractor, the company does not do that. So that's a technical difference right there, okay? Well, once again, as an example, all right, I've been an employee of a private school. I worked for them. I get the W-2. They withhold the taxes. I get wages. All right. I've also been a contractor for other schools. They do not do that. I was deciding how I achieve the results that they hired me to do. I had my own tools. I had my own research team, and so on. And there you go, as an independent contractor. All right. I have the link here. All right. IRS small business. This is the link for you right over here. You can Google it if you would like to do it. We're not going to take a look at it. I'm looking at the time. We have about 25 minutes left. The irs.gov site, again, will give you information about that. Is it a self-employed independent contractor or an employee? Because now I have a question for you all. Oh, sorry. Before I do, let's talk about a couple things about why does it matter how I classify my workers? Independent contractors represent the largest growing group in the US workforce. All right. Very key, very, very important. All right. Very important. They represent the largest work group. Okay. Again, just as a reminder, employers are not required to pay contractors necessarily a salary. You get paid wages, but it's not a salary. All right. Benefits or even withhold employment taxes. The worker needs to do that themselves, the independent contractor. And it's estimated that in the United States right now, and this is a surprise, this was a surprise to me, 3.4 million employees are incorrectly being classified as independent contractors, but they should be classified as employees. There are definitely benefits for the businesses, all right? It is a different relationship, like I mentioned, all right? Before I have you all chime in just a second, whoops. What are some, and this is straight from the IRS website, so the writing looks a little bit different, but what are some consequences for misfiling or misclassification? What are they? All right, $50 for each W-2 that the employer fails to file. You have penalties here of wages, okay? 40% of FICA taxes not withheld from employees at 100% of the employer FICA taxes. Failure to pay taxes, well, there's going to be some issues with that, okay? All right, and again, those are unintentional consequences, right? However, there are some intentional consequences. You can have penalties here. Criminal penalties up to $1,000 per each misclassified, okay? There's a possibility of jail too if this continues on, all right? And those responsible for withholding taxes could be personally liable for uncollected taxes. So you want to make sure that you file that correctly. That link to the IRS site, let me go ahead and go back to it. Give me a second. Whoops. That link, let me go ahead and go back to it. I'm going to click on it and it's going to open. Let me share it with you in the chat. It is so important that I'm going to take the time to do this. This is important. All right. let's take a look right over here. All right, so I'm going to put this in the chat for you all. Very, very nice, very, very key. We have some comments in the chat here. Very, very important. Let's paste it. It is right here. Keep it with you, okay? Read it through, and this is the whole list, all right? Select the scenario that works for you, that applies for you. Are you an independent contractor or a business for yourself, and so on and so forth. So take a look at that. I'll get to, let me get to the, since I'm in the chat here, Christy had a good point here. And Christy says, this is an important element to contracting. If one is paid $60 as a contractor, that might seem like a lot, but a third of it is going to taxes, etc. Employers try to get away with calling employees contractors for financial reasons. That's right. And again, there are consequences to misfiling. And so you don't want to try to get away with it. The IRS will know. All right. And this is important. Thank you, Christy, for that comment. Absolutely. All right. Let me go back to the slide presentation. All right. Right there. All right. So let's talk about the independent contractor test. And that's not a real test. It's just a question that you need to ask, questions that you need to ask yourself to determine whether or not you're the person you're hiring can be an independent contractor or not. You have to make sure that you hire them in the right capacity. If not, you get those penalties like we talked about. Behavioral control. All right. Does the business have the right to direct and control how the worker does the task for which they are hired through instruction, training, or other means? That's important. Okay. Financial control. Does the business have a right to control the financial and business aspect of the worker's job, including how the business pays for the worker, how the worker makes their services available? Oops. Thomas is back. Here we go. Great. Available, and the extent to which the worker has unreimbursed business expenses. And lastly, the relationship of the parties. Are there written contracts between the two parties? And does the business provide employee type benefits like insurance, again, pension plan, vacation, sick pay, and so on? So these are questions that you need to know. And in order to determine whether or not to classify your worker as an independent contractor or an employee, I would recommend that you read the articles again. Let's dive in just a little bit deeper into the independent contractors checklist. And again, I could resonate with this myself personally. I've been an independent contractor and an employee. I've been both. All right. Does the independent contractor operate under their own business name? Right. Does the independent contractor, or does the worker have their own employees? They might be an independent contractor in this case. Absolutely. All right. Do they maintain their separate business checking account? Right. Did they advertise their business's services? Right. Do they have a contract? Independent contractor with a contract describing describing the relationship. Right. Employees might also have a contract as well, or letters of employment, right, which might be different. Invoices for work completed, right? I know as an independent contractor, I had to invoice for my work completed, but as an employee, I did not, right? Has more than one client? Yes, right? That might be an independent contractor with more than one client, all right? Has their own tools and sets their own hours? Absolutely. And keeps their own business records. That is your independent contractor checklist right over here. Also, on the flip side, the employee checklist. Let's talk. You define the work hours, you as the employer. That's right. You provide the equipment and supplies. The relationship is indefinite, and contractors, remember, understand, are temporary, okay, unless they're fired or laid off or something for employees. You don't receive invoices from your employees, right? All right. The worker works only for you, or might have two jobs, but again, not necessarily as a contractor, right? They work for you. There isn't a contract, right? A written contract between the two parties. You might have a letter of employment instead, all right? The worker performs core business services the employee performs core business services, but the contractors are supplemental, okay? Contractors are supplemental. They may not perform core business services, right? Very good, very good. All right, now I was an eager beaver, everybody. I was waiting for this slide. It's your turn. In the chat, go ahead and answer the question. What are some examples of work a contractor would do in your industry? In your industry. So go ahead and type it in the chat. I'm going to get to the chat in just a second. But also, what are some examples that an employee would do in your industry? All right, go ahead and take your time and put that in there. All right, very good. All right. So Don had a couple questions. As you're putting in your answers to this, Don had a couple questions. When you own a construction business, you will always be classified as an independent contractor. Can you say more about this, says Christy? I'm not sure if this is correct. It depends. It depends. It depends. As an owner, you're required to classify yourself as an independent contractor, especially if you will have employees. Again, do you have a reference for that? Again, it'll all depend. I wouldn't necessarily say that you're required by whom. That's a good question to ask from Christy. Independent contractor Don says they would subcontract for me to complete a project. Don, well done, very good. That's exactly what it is, independent contractor. Okay, Nicholas, safety safari, emergency crew, right? Yes, yes, very good, very good. Next, employees, I'm sorry, Christy says, I might hire for marketing or the occasional delivery driver. Absolutely, right? Again, we're not talking about the core business competencies here, all right? For independent contractors, we're talking about supplementals. Right on. All right, cool. Thomas says, I'm not sure. That's okay. That's all right. Yes, absolutely. Well done, everybody. Well done. That's awesome. Well done. All right. We have Sitlali is saying a hauling crew can be classified as a contractor. Yes, absolutely. Right. You want to hire that independent contractor for the hauling crew. Absolutely. Well done. You all are great. This is a great class. You all participating? Yes. All right. This is great. Now, are you still unsure as to how to classify them? Well, there is a determination of worker status for purposes of federal employment and with federal employment taxes and income tax withholdings. That is a long title, the SS-8. And the link is right here. Let's take a look at it. I'm going to go ahead and share the SS-8 again with you. Where is it? There it is right there. Okay. It'll be in the chat for our friends over here. Well done. All right. And again, long title. Read it over. Take a look. And again, this is if you're unsure as to how to classify. That'll help you out. It is right there. Feel free to print it out. Feel free to print it out. It's got everything that you need. And it is an IRS form, okay? Very straightforward IRS form. All right. Great. Let's do this. Now, we have about 13 minutes left, which is the perfect amount of time to take a look at a couple of other articles. Yes, I'm going to share these with you, and they're all there. I'd like to talk about a couple of HR trends for 2023, top 10. This is from Forbes magazine. I have the article right here for you, right over here. Top 10 HR trends, right over here. Read over this. This is some homework. We're going to go over this in just a sec. Feel free to print it out. Feel free to read it. It's all there for you. Boom, right over here. Top 10 trends. It's always important when you're putting on that HR hat to know what's happening, know what's going on, and know what prospective employees are looking for. All right. So again, some of this might be a little repetitive, but I'm just going to talk about the 1 through 10. Employee well-being is a human imperative. Absolutely. Well-being. You can read all that. Take a look at some examples. Number 2, skills-based hiring is on the rise as companies recruit for potential rather than degrees. Absolutely. Right. It used to be, sorry, I'm not even going to consider you unless you have that bachelor's degree. But now we're talking about skills-based hiring. A lot more. This is, again, some of the trends. All right. Very good. Okay. Again, the future of work is flexibility for all employees. Absolutely. Hybrid learning will force companies to reinvent their brick and mortar corporate academies. That might not necessarily apply to you as sole proprietors. Okay. This is more and more important. Environmental social governance, ESG reporting will expand beyond compliance to attract talent. Read more about this. All right. It is key. It is important. It might not necessarily apply to you as a sole proprietor, but it's good to know that it's there. All right. Okay. Human skills, right? Communication, customer service, leadership, attention to details. They're the new hard skills for the future of work. All right. Human skills are very important. With the advent of artificial intelligence, a lot of the harder skilled administrative work can be outsourced for cheap or for free. We're looking for employees. People are looking for employees that have those human skills. All right. Okay. Very important. All right. Next, hybrid working. That might be something that you want to make sure that you understand. Hopefully, we're not going to go back to a pandemic-like situation. But again, hybrid working might be something you want to consider. And again, we're talking about the future, right? Okay. This might not necessarily apply, but again, the future of the office will be to bring the off-site vibe on-site. All right. And we're talking about humans and bots create a new blended workforce. All right. Again, we're talking about the trends. HR burnout. This is the reality. HR compliance and burnout can occur for sole proprietors who put on that HR hat. That's something to consider as well. Okay. That's something to consider as well. So those were the 10 right over here. Let me go ahead and share with you the next article. I have it on the next slide. All right. I want to particularly take a look at number 1 on this one. This is a similar article. All right. Again, I want it for you right over here. Let's see. Let me paste it and boom, right over here. There you go. 10 ways human resources will continue to change. All right. Okay. This is for small business owners specifically. And let's talk. So companies will provide progress reports on diversity and inclusion efforts. Absolutely. This is an increasingly important thing to understand, that employees might be looking for a greater awareness of diversity and inclusion. All right. Again, HR departments and yourselves with that HR hats can lean on technology to automate the process. There are some websites that you can take a look at. And again, you have some links right over here for some HR software, popularity of HR software right over here. So you can take a look at that. I'm looking at the clock. I want to make sure we have enough time for questions at the end here. More companies will adopt dynamic in-office and remote policies. All right. So make sure that in your policies, we're talking about dynamic policies for in-office and remote, not just safety policies and things like that. Again, we'll talk more about policies next time. All right. So that'll be good. All right. Next. Employers will virtually maintain a company's culture and employee engagement. All right, so that might be the case in your situation. There are your businesses, you might have to meet with your employees via Zoom, for example, and things like that. So again, maintaining that culture, um, is key. All right, there you go. Again, employers focusing on employee well-being. HR teams might modify employee benefits, right? Again, the benefits, that will be our discussion next week. We're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to review a lot that we've already taken a look at today. But again, flexible work, what does that mean? You know, maybe your employee is a parent with young kids, might have to juggle childcare, maybe might need flexible work hours, right? Those are all very important things to consider. I'm a father of young kids, and I can tell you that this is key. It's one of the reasons why I work for the SBDC here at BMCC. I get to be here. And so flexibility is important, all right? Also, something called, and this is important, something called employee experience. You want the experience for the employee to be the best that it can be, and employers will dedicate more resources to that experience. Employees, I'm reading right here, employees will leave organizations that don't offer career paths. All right, very important. Employers must highlight internal career options. All right, and again, employers should consider employee experience managers. All right, very good. All right, again, employers will focus on improved leadership training. Okay, it's all there. HR departments will face new compliance regulations, right? Make sure that you stay up to date. Learn more about this. If you're Googling information about compliance, make sure that you are looking at the most recent information. Laws change, right? Laws change, right? Very important, all right? And lastly, on this one, an example of laws changing include the cannabis laws, for example, right? It might be legal at the state level, might not be legal at the federal level. That's something to consider. So read about this. And HR continues to be redefined. All right, very key, very important. All right, last but not least, let's talk about delegating your human resource task. Now, we talked about delegating it to software, for example, okay, to software. But make sure that you understand that we have the ability to delegate to other people as well. So that's key. So let's take a look at that. Again, it's an article that I have for you. All right. Right over here. This is an example of a software, Connect Teams, that they wrote an article. Of course, they're going to promote themselves in that article right over here. But let's take a look and see here. Paste right over here. So again, I have 4 articles. This is a lot, I know. Okay, this might be your homework for next time. Remember, I hope to see you all next time because we have our second section. If you got lost, I hope you didn't get lost. We're going to review a number of these points, okay, today. All right. I'm going to go back to my articles here, okay, delegating. And now, before you all leave, everybody, I would like you to answer these 2 questions in the chat, please. I know we only have 3 minutes left. Did you learn at least one thing that you did not know before this session? Tell me yes, no, or I don't know. And did you discover at least one thing that you will consider doing in your business as a result of this session? Go ahead and tell me in the chat. All right, I'll take a look at the chat in just a second. As you're doing this, everybody, I want to remind you that next week we're going to review what we covered today real quick. We're going to talk about compensation, employee benefits, and consistent business practices. And we are the SBDC. Please give us a call. We are the SBDC at Blue Mountain Community College. Give us a call at 541-278-5833. 541-278-5833. And you can give us an email. Again, send us an email at sbdc@bluecc.edu, sbdc@bluecc.edu. I hope to see everyone here next week. Let me take a look at the chat and see what I have here. We have Sitlali who asked a question. Business owners are not responsible to provide workers' comp for contractors. No, says Christy, right? But they may, and then you have a link right there that you have to take a look at to answer the questions. I have a couple here. You all said yes. What did you learn? Dawn says, thank you, Dawn, for your wonderful answers. My goodness, thank you so much. I discovered that I need to really rethink how I will interview employees and what I need to ask more in depth. What did you learn? Thank you very much, everybody, for all of this. And I hope to see you next week, 1 week from today on the 15th. Christy and I are here to answer any questions, all right? Behavioral questions really do help to get to know potential hires, says Nicholas. Thank you very much, Nicholas. Absolutely. Thank you. We are here to answer any questions. If you don't have any questions, I look forward to seeing you next week. You all have those articles to read. It's homework. Yay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Thomas, Heather, Nicholas. Thank you so much for this. Hope to see you next week, everybody. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. All right. Any questions? It's 10 o'clock. Perfect timing. All right. I think we're done. Thank you.